the Huckle from ReidSex.com. So let me know if you can hear me as you sign on. Just leave a comment. And because I have my Bluetooth in, and I'm not sure if it's if you're getting good sound through my Bluetooth headset or not. So do me that favor. I just flew in this morning from the Burbank, California airport. Now I'm in SFO en route to Toronto. So I'm about to go to the international terminal, and I realized that I didn't have a lot of battery power, and so I should do this now because Facebook Living from this is proof that I'm heading towards the international terminal, even though this is all backwards on Facebook Live. So let me know if you can hear me. But I don't want to Facebook Live necessarily from Canada because it's going to cost me an arm and a leg. But good morning, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, can you hear me? I'm just making sure that the Bluetooth is working. So podcast tips for sex educators, or I guess like even just podcast folk. Yesterday I had the great pleasure of hanging out with Neil Strauss and meeting Gabrielle Reese in Malibu for their podcast called The Truth Barrel, and I'll put the link in it. You can actually see the Facebook Live from yesterday, and Gabrielle popped in and said hello at the end, which I was very like, ooh, celebrity crush. But we also geeked out for, we taped a long time and just talked about all kinds of things about healthy relationships. You know, the original pitch, because they asked me what they wanted to talk about, is I was wanting to talk about casual sex and the casual sex protocols. And the reason I wanted to do that is I checked out their other podcast topics, and they hadn't really had anything like that. Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks, Cole. So they hadn't had anything about that yet. They did a lot of cool geeky stuff with other guests, and they had Jaya Ma on, and they had Chris Ryan on. You know, so they were doing a little bit about sex and relationships and intimacy, but you know, I just wanted to kind of come at it from a geeky, nerdy angle, but also because I wanted to, you know, I just pitched them something that was fun and unique that I know would be interesting to a lot of folks and not be a really typical topic. And also I had set up on my website already a link where, you know, for a free download, so you can get the casual sex protocols at reidsex.com/protocols. And I knew I had that already set up, and it was something easy that I could send the podcast producer so that he could download the handout and then get that to Gabrielle and to Neil. And then that would be something that would be really natural to talk about on their podcast and give the link, so that for people who are fans of theirs and for fans of the podcast, they could then go get the resources and also sign up for my mailing list, which is just good, you know, good business, because then if people like the resource, I mean, they can always unsubscribe. So when you have people sign up for something, you know, make sure it's kind of like the law, and it's super duper the law in Canada, which is funny because Canada has even more strict anti-spam laws. But have your system set up so that you can capture emails and people can unsubscribe easily if they need to, and then make your resources really great and give them something that they can, you know, I think, and I encourage people to download the worksheet or the checklist, and in downloading it, I invite them to print it out, like not just download it and then forget about it in your download folder, but give them a reminder email the next day, because when they sign up, the way that I have it set up is it sends them directly to the download page, and then my email system also automatically sends them an email with the link, because not everybody is going to download something right away, and a lot of people are on phones. They're doing mobile engagement, So they don't necessarily I don't even know where PDFs are stored on my phone. So, you don't want people to just download it to their phone and then never see it ever again. So I send them an email the next day reminding them to download it, to print it out, and then in this case with the checklist, have a conversation with a friend, start talking about the checklist, which is a way to just anchor the content and the tips and the protocols, but to also start making it a part of somebody's real life. Like you get them to print out the worksheet or the handout and get it in their world. I mean, we've killed the tree, unfortunately, but get it into their world, and then can you get them talking about it? And for me, as a sex and relationship geek, the biggest piece is that people will look for information, maybe integrate it, but then they don't actually talk about the safer sex elevator speech or the difficult conversation formula. And so one of the tips, which is kind of 2 steps removed from the podcast situation, is do you have the resources set up in a simple, swift, elegant way, and are you leveraging your ability to build the relationship with that person while you're also getting them to actually anchor the tools and techniques that will actually change their life. Great if you create a new fan, but it's kind of shitty as an educator if you don't actually take the time to help them actually implement and integrate and be able to recall the information. Like, great, you have another follower on Facebook or Twitter or on your email list, but if you're actually not really changing their lives, that's a huge missed opportunity. So that's just me. And if you change people's lives for free with cool content, and then you really change their lives when you have your 3-day retreat or your online course, and you invite them to check it out, they're more apt to check it out because you really helped them, and you didn't waste their time. So these are just those are ideas for after the fact. Another thing that I still always feel cheesy and dorky about is wanting to get selfies with people at the podcast and whatnot, and so I was like, I shouldn't do it. I shouldn't interrupt because they're doing a photo op. They're filming a couple of different. There were 2 interviews that day. One was with Rashad from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm forgetting his last name. It's like Mendenhall or something like that. Not a football fan, even though my father did play for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the late 50s, believe it or not. I'm not a sports fan. I'm sorry, everyone. But they were doing a photo op with Rashad, and I popped in to kind of photobomb. And I was really nervous about it because I don't want to be inappropriate. Gabrielle hadn't met me yet. Rashad didn't know who the fuck I was. But Neil knew who I was, so when I asked and kind of jumped in real quick, Neil was like, sure, absolutely. And then it was okay. And I'm really happy I took that photo because I was able to post it on Twitter this morning and Instagram and on Facebook. And so that's like good social proof. But I'm also not just doing it because of social proof, but I was also promoting the podcast ahead of time. So for Brian, the producer, maybe for Neil and Gabrielle, if they're paying attention, to their social media, I'm helping promote their podcast, their work to other people, to my fans and followers. And it's also getting me social proof. So another good thing when you're on a podcast is, ask the producer, ask the podcasters how you can promote their stuff, and start promoting it because it helps your career in business. All Gabrielle Reese's fans and followers and friends, hopefully, are listening to her podcast, and then, me promoting stuff and her retweeting it and sharing it, gets my work out to more people. So while it might feel embarrassing to try to catch a photo op or something like that, you can also check in with the producer and with the podcast people, even ahead of time. Be like, this is something now. This is a good idea. Like, I need to do this. I just realized this. Like, I can check in with the producers and be like, hey, I do a lot of social media stuff. I just want to check in. Like, is it okay for me to take a selfie or do a Facebook Live before or after? I did a Facebook Live after, and I was kind of off on the corner and just kind of being out of everyone's way because I didn't want to intrude. We'd done the recording, and it was really just a really beautiful view up there in Malibu. But as I was Facebook Living, and the sound guy and Gabriella and a couple other people walking by, I was far enough away that I was like, hey, if you want to say hi to my Facebook fans, please do. And so, I gave them the opportunity to walk over and say hi if they wanted to. And it was a get to, it wasn't a have to. And so, there's a couple of different things like that, but kind of thinking ahead and also kind of figuring out your own style. If you're shy and introverted, but you give great podcasts, then you might want to tattletale on yourself and let the producer or the podcaster know, hey, one of the things I'm working on is trying to be better at social media, and I'm shy about social media, so will you make sure, Mr. Producer, that I get at least one selfie with everybody, because that's, I need to do that, and that would really be helpful, and, if you could support me in that would be great. And you'll be surprised how much, producers and podcasters, they want to help, and them reminding you to take a selfie and forcing you to do it because you asked, that's no skin off their nose. And sometimes everybody's stressed for time and whatnot, but we all, a lot of us who are nerdy about social media, we know the value of a photo op and things that we can retweet and publish and share. And sometimes you get a picture or something that's really amazing and just kind of catch it off guard. We were playing in the pool yesterday in between recordings, and I didn't have my phone out because there was a photographer on site, but we had some really fun, goofy stuff of us playing on a slack line over the swimming pool, which, maybe there's an amazing photograph of me falling on my ass in the water, which I'll be able to use for something else. So, I don't know. Always ask if it's okay for you to bring a guest, or if somebody is driving you to the location. Ask permission just to make sure, hey, is there room for, can I have my friend who's driving me, can they hang out while we record? Don't just show up with a posse. Don't be tacky like that. But check in and because we're relationship and sex nerds, try to get as much consent as you can going into something, but also give yourself some grace to, look back and at a missed opportunity, God damn, I should have figured out to do a selfie and I missed it. Don't beat yourself up too much. Just, you'll get better and better at these things, and have fun and ask permission. I gave out Sex Geek t-shirts yesterday, but, as I'm asking people if they want the t-shirt, I was like, hey, please say no if you don't want extra stuff. And so, Gabrielle and a bunch of Neil's producers and stuff all have Sex Geeks t-shirts, and we got a picture of us with Sex Geek t-shirts on because it was nerdy fun. But don't be weird and leave your stickers and your flyers and your business cards planted in somebody's home for later. That's just creepy. So please don't do that. That's annoying. I think that's it. I'm gonna go catch my flight and figure out what gate I'm in. And I just want to send you all some love. I'm gonna try to Facebook Live from Canada. If we've got Wi-Fi that can do it, that'll be great. And also, if you're traveling internationally, get a calling plan, upgrade your calling plan if you can afford it, and only use Wi-Fi data so you don't get reamed for that. I got to do that as well. That's my reminder to call AT&T and put the Canadian plan on, because I've got some texting and business calls and stuff to do for Sex Geek Summer Camp while I'm in Canada. And Sex Geek Summer Camp is less than 40 days away. So please, 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 if you're going to register soon. we're going to take the 3-payment plan off, I guess probably this week or this weekend. So if you need to do the 3 payments for Sex Geek Summer Camp, please go to readaboutsex.com/camp FAQ and get that right away, because I'll take that off. I'll discontinue 3 payments on Sunday. And but hey, if you can pay in 1 payment, go for it. We love that too. I think that's it. I love you all a lot. Thanks for being with me on these goofy adventures, and I hope this information today was useful. Some simple tips on how to give good podcasts. And that big one is have a resource page that people who are listening to the podcast can go to anchor the information. Like, let's be better teachers and be smart about how we help people learn and integrate our tools. All right, put some emoticons on the way out, my friends. Happy Pride for anyone who's celebrating Pride or already had their Pride weekend. And I'll see you. I'll probably Facebook Live from Canada, but I'll definitely be Facebooking Live next week when I get back into town. All right, bye. Oh, look at the emoticons. Thanks, everyone. Ciao.